We ask your help in this fateful moment as sign that we scientists do not stand alone.
I agree.
Is third equal to mass multiplied with the square of the velocity of light showed that very small amount of mass activity, that mass and energy are but different manifestations of the same thing. A somewhat
He was the face of genius, the wild hair, the warm smile, the equation that changed everything. But what if the Einstein you were taught was just that, a carefully edited version? Because behind that halo of intellect was a man hiding affairs, buried letters, government watch lists, and moral contradictions so explosive his own family tried to keep them secret. The textbooks made a quiet decision to leave all of it out. We're putting it back in. Hit like if you love history, they don't teach you. Subscribe so you never miss an expose like this. And comment below. Did your school ever hint at any of this? Today, we uncover 20 scandalous secrets you never knew about Albert Einstein. The hidden loves, forbidden letters, and quiet controversies that still challenge the myth of the perfect genius.
We are concerned here with an act of humanity, with the maintaining of cultural values, and not least with a measure of considerable political importance.
1. The secret daughter nobody knew about. Before Einstein was a global icon, he was a poor physics student in love with Mileva Maric, his classmate at the Zurich Polytechnic. In 1902, before they married, Mileva gave birth to a baby girl named Liesel. No one outside the family knew she existed. Einstein never publicly acknowledged her, and to this day, her fate remains a mystery. Some historians believe she died of scarlet fever. Others think she was given up for adoption. Einstein wrote of her only once, in a letter, and then never again. The genius who could measure the universe couldn't face the consequences of his own heart. 2. He cheated on his first wife. Repeatedly, Einstein's marriage to Mileva quickly turned cold. While she raised their sons and managed their household, he was already chasing other women. He met his cousin Elsa, and what began as a friendly correspondence became a passionate affair. The letters are explicit, emotional, and at times cruel. In one, he described meeting other women while still with Elsa, calling them his conquests. He later married Elsa after divorcing Mileva, but that didn't stop the affairs. 3. His love letters were shockingly candid. Einstein left behind more than equations. He left behind over 1,300 letters, many of them scandalous. They reveal a man torn between passion and intellect. He confessed to sleeping with several women, describing encounters in ways no one expected from the great physicist. To Elsa, he once wrote, "I am terribly spoilt by the number of women who fall for me." It was genius with a touch of arrogance and total disregard for discretion. 4. He imposed cruel rules on his wife. During his marriage to Mileva, Einstein drafted a list of cold, mechanical conditions she had to follow. She was to serve him 3 meals a day, keep his clothes clean, never ask to speak to him, and leave his study whenever he requested. He even wrote, "You will stop talking to me if I request it." It read less like a marriage contract and more like an experiment in control. Mileva obeyed until she couldn't anymore. 5. His son ended up in a mental asylum. Einstein's second son, Eduard, was brilliant and sensitive, much like his father. But as a young man, he developed schizophrenia. Einstein, unable to cope, distanced himself. He rarely visited and eventually moved abroad, leaving Mileva to care for their son alone. Eduard spent most of his life in a psychiatric institution, where he died. Einstein would later call his son's illness his greatest tragedy, but some say he carried guilt for abandoning him. 6. He fell for his stepdaughter. When Einstein married Elsa, she already had 2 daughters, Ilse and Margot. Whispers in the family suggested that before marrying Elsa, Einstein had been in love with Ilse, his own stepdaughter. Letters hint at emotional intimacy far beyond what was appropriate. Ilse eventually married another man, but Einstein's affection for her was no secret within the household. 7. He disliked fame, but enjoyed the attention. Einstein often complained about fame, calling it a burden. Yet behind the scenes, he reveled in the attention of admirers, especially women. At public events, he basked in applause and flirted openly, signing autographs with playful sketches of himself. It was a contradiction that followed him everywhere. The humble genius who secretly loved the limelight. 8. He almost refused the Nobel Prize money. In 1921, Einstein received the Nobel Prize in Physics, not for relativity, but for his work on the photoelectric effect. But here's the H scandal. He didn't even attend the ceremony. He was in Japan, giving lectures, and treated the award almost as an afterthought. To make things stranger, he had already promised all the prize money to his ex-wife as part of their divorce settlement, before he even won it. 9. He was watched by the FBI for decades. During the Cold War, Einstein's pacifist and socialist sympathies made him a target. The FBI opened a file on him that eventually reached 1,427 pages. They tracked his letters, his travel, even his friendships. J. Edgar Hoover believed Einstein was part of a communist conspiracy, though no proof was ever found. The world's greatest scientist had become a suspect in his adopted homeland. 10. He had a complex relationship with religion. Publicly, Einstein often said he believed in the God of Spinoza, a poetic way to avoid declaring atheism. Privately, he called religion childish and wrote that the Bible was a collection of primitive legends. But he also said, science without religion is lame. He played both sides, philosopher to the faithful, skeptic to his peers, and let people see whatever version of him they wanted to believe. 11. He had a hidden political agenda. While the world saw Einstein as a gentle pacifist, letters later revealed a more complex figure. He supported civil rights in America and spoke against racism. But behind closed doors, he also advised the US government on scientific projects with military potential. When Hitler rose to power, Einstein quietly encouraged the development of nuclear research. It was his letter to President Roosevelt that set in motion the Manhattan Project, something he later regretted for the rest of his life. 12. He secretly hated his fame in Germany. Before fleeing Nazi Germany, Einstein was adored as a national hero. But his growing fame turned toxic. Conservative groups accused him of corrupting science with Jewish physics. They burned his books and plastered his face on posters calling him an enemy of the state. When he left Germany, they confiscated his property and allegedly placed a bounty on his head. He would never return. 13. He had a hidden illegitimate affair in America. Even in his 60s, Einstein's appetite for romance hadn't faded. One of his letters reveals an affair with a mysterious woman known only as E. Another letter mentions a child, though scholars still debate if it was metaphorical or literal. Whatever the truth, Einstein's charm clearly didn't end with his equations. 14. He refused the presidency of Israel, but not for the reason you think. In 1952, after the death of Israel's first president, the the government offered Einstein the position. He refused, claiming he lacked the natural aptitude for politics. But close friends later said the real reason was more personal. He feared being forced to confront Zionist factions he privately disagreed with, and didn't want to be a symbolic puppet for a young nation still finding its footing. Even in politics, Einstein preferred mystery to transparency. 15. His brain was stolen after his death. When Einstein died in 1955, the pathologist performing his autopsy, Dr. Thomas Harvey, removed his brain without permission. He kept it in jars for decades, slicing it into pieces for research. Harvey lost his medical license, but guarded the brain like a relic. It wasn't until the 1990s that scientists rediscovered its remains. Still preserved, still surrounded by questions. What did Harvey hope to find? A map to genius, or a souvenir of immortality? 16. His brain showed strange differences. When finally studied, Einstein's brain revealed odd features: a thicker corpus callosum, extra folds in the prefrontal cortex, and unusual symmetry. Some said this explained his brilliance, others argued it proved nothing. But here's the eerie part. Those differences were found only after decades of secret storage, meaning nobody really knows how accurate the findings were. Science's greatest mind became its most controversial specimen. 17. He clashed with other geniuses. Einstein's charm didn't extend to all of his peers. He openly mocked Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg, calling their quantum theories spooky nonsense. Bohr fired back, saying, "Stop telling God what to do." Their debates shaped modern physics, but also revealed Einstein's stubborn side. He couldn't accept that the universe might be ruled by chance. To him, that was chaos, and Einstein hated chaos. 18. He had a dark sense of humor. Friends described Einstein as funny, but sometimes disturbingly so. When told of a new invention meant to calculate atomic reactions, he quipped, "Good. Now we can destroy the world more efficiently." He often joked about death and destruction, masking anxiety behind humor. The man who revolutionized science also wrestled with the consequences of his own discoveries, and sometimes laughed to keep from screaming. 19. He was estranged from his family at the end. By the time he was an old man, Einstein had distanced himself from almost everyone. He rarely saw his surviving son, spoke little of his first wife, and spent most of his time alone at Princeton. He told friends he preferred solitude, but letters from that era reveal loneliness. He had become a global symbol, yet felt disconnected from the very people he'd once loved most. The man who explained relativity couldn't seem to stay connected to his own reality. 20. He left a cryptic note. Before he died on April 18th, 1955, as Einstein lay dying, he scrawled a final message in German. The nurse who found it couldn't read the language, and the paper vanished soon after. Historians still don't know what it said. Was it an unfinished equation, a confession, or perhaps a secret meant to stay hidden? Whatever it was, Einstein took its meaning to the grave. A fitting end for the man who spent his life chasing the mysteries of the universe. Albert Einstein wasn't just the man who rewrote physics. He was a puzzle made of contradictions, a humanitarian who hurt those closest to him, a pacifist whose letter sparked the atomic bomb, a genius who believed in reason but lived in emotional chaos. The more we uncover, the more his legend blurs. Perhaps that's what makes him timeless. Not the equations, not the theories, but the flaws that made him human. Because genius, it turns out, isn't pure light. It's brilliance with shadows. Share your thoughts in the comments about what you just uncovered now. Also, make sure to like and subscribe and stay updated for more uncovered secrets like this.